Hello and good evening, everyone, and welcome to the March Recreational Astronomy Night of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada Toronto Centre, coming to you live from York University. My name's Tom Luton. I'll be your host for this evening. So, our lineup for the evening, we have the sky this month with Denis Gray. Then Ron Macnaughton will be talking about school astronomy clubs and how we can help them. And then we'll have Denis Gray back again, telling us what's new with OW Cloud. Then we'll have at the end announcements by our president, Scott Masterton. Can I just see a quick show of hands? Is there anyone here new for the first time? Wonderful, welcome. All right, so without further ado then, we'll get things started with Denis Gray and the sky this month.
All right, good evening. Thank you very much, Tom. And thank you very much for an opportunity. It's been a while since I've done the sky this month. Hopefully I'll still remember how to do it. And we'll start off with a quick agenda. So this month we're going to break it down week by week and highlight some of the things that are going on. Start with a big picture just to sort of put everything in context, and then go through some of the things. And in between we will intersperse some stuff about planets, comets, space flight, and so forth as we go along. And at the end, we'll have time for some questions, maybe even some answers, depending on how hard the questions are. So one of the things I like to start off with is sort of like the big picture as it stands today in March. And when you think about the big picture, what I'm thinking about is like the sun goes down, the sky keeps rotating all night long, and you start with where's my cursor? Oh, there it is. So you start with the sun going down, and nearest the sun are the planets and stars and so forth that are right there as the sun is setting. And as you go across the sky map here, you get to the middle of the night and looking straight up. And then as you get into this left-hand side, you get into the morning, and you see more planets showing up again there. So right now we have the king of the planets. Jupiter is in its absolute best position that it gets to once every 12 years. So the constellation Gemini, when you see the constellation Gemini high in the sky, those two bright stars together, that's where the sun is going to be around June solstice, when it's as high as it gets in the summertime. So Jupiter is as high as it gets in the northern hemisphere right about now, which means that we're looking through less atmosphere, way less atmosphere than we will be in another 6 years or so, when Jupiter will be much lower in the sky and we'll be looking through a little bit of a muddy mess to see it. So now is definitely the right time. Get out there with your telescope and or binoculars, point it straight up and see if you can see Jupiter's, because it's right there in the middle. And it's already past its sort of ideal point in the sky as it's starting to get towards the sun and starting to set. So it's already past opposition, starting to move towards the sun, and eventually, like all the other planets, it'll slip behind the sun and reappear in the morning sky. Right near the sun right now, we have Saturn making its final appearance before it goes behind the sun and shows up in the morning sky. Uranus is near the Pleiades, and we'll talk about that later on. One of the other things right now is we're very close to the equinox, and you can see here with the yearly sun graph, this is how our daylight changes over the year. And you can see that discontinuity which is coming up, which is this weekend, where we switch from daylight savings time, standard time, to daylight savings time. It's interesting, we have a number of jurisdictions here in Canada, BC among them, and Alberta is considering getting out of this business of doing this change. I think it'll be a very important decision if it comes to us. Personally, I'm in favor of darker mornings and brighter evenings. I don't know is anyone who's with me? Brighter evenings, darker mornings. Okay, but we have some minority here who want darker evenings, and that's actually the correct position for an astronomer to take, Tom. Very good. So what we have here, we're getting into sort of the mid eclipse area. Civil twilight's going from just after 6 to 6 in the morning. The astronomical twilight, though, that's when we really like it there in full night. So full night's right from about just before 8 o'clock till 12 to about 5:15 in the morning, and that's still a pretty good window. But it means that the sun is completely down and the sky is as dark as it's going to get. Combine that with the spring equinox, you get some opportunities there. Now, we are located in the galaxy. We are part of the galaxy, and where we are in the galaxy does determine what we can see at different times of the year. So right now, when we are looking at the night sky, we're looking outside of the plane of the galaxy towards intergalactic space, which means that the Milky Way is not really as visible as it is most of the time. It's hanging right around the horizon. We're looking kind of straight up towards other galaxies, and this is why spring is known as galaxy season. There's a lot of opportunities to see galaxies, particularly in the constellations Virgo and Leo. So that will be something that a lot of people will be focusing on. If we're looking at west at sunset, we're seeing we're looking east at let's just skip that one. If we're looking at east at sunrise, we can already start to see the summer constellations coming into view, in particular the summer triangle, Cygnus, Deneb, Vega, and Altair. Those three bright stars form the summer triangle, and you can see them even from Toronto. And that's starting to show up and will start to become more and more of a presence as we move into the warmer season. Now, one of the big challenges that we have at this time of year is the weather. March is famous. This is a chart that shows sort of average nighttime cloud in percentages here. And you see the more orange it is, the worse it is. And right now, a good place to be is somewhere down here near Tobago, where I was about a month ago. But right up here, we get a lot of cloud in March. So the message there is if it's clear, you should go out, because it probably won't be clear tomorrow, and it probably won't be clear or the day after that. So you better get out as early as you can. So looking a little bit at this month, we had the full moon yesterday, and that coincided with the lunar eclipse. How many people had a chance to see the lunar eclipse? Got one there. Excellent. Good. And it was a pretty good one, but it was very early in the morning, so we weren't able to organize any educational or outreach events, because we didn't really expect anyone to show up at 3 in the morning. But I did see some pictures on the discourse forum, and people did get a chance to enjoy it, so that was excellent. Coming up this weekend on Saturday and Sunday, we're going to see Venus and Saturn in conjunction near the setting sun. So Venus is very, very bright, very easy to pick out. Saturn is getting kind of deep into the muck there as it gets closer and closer to the sun. But because Venus is shining away there and helping you to find it, a pair of binoculars should make it very easy for you to pick out Saturn very close to the sun. And as I mentioned earlier, Uranus is very close to the very bright star cluster, the Pleiades. How many people here know how to find the Pleiades? Yeah, not quite. Okay, we keep a minute. We'll talk back there in the back if you're interested. But again, with binoculars, you would be able to see the star cluster of the Pleiades, and you would be able to see Uranus, the planet, as a funny little blue star that would be just hanging out below the Pleiades. So it's a nice opportunity to catch Uranus. Not everyone can say that they've seen Uranus. It is a bit of a it's not spectacular to see the way Jupiter or Saturn is, but it is something to say, hey, I've seen another ice giant from the outer solar system. Now, one of the things that's interesting I found when I was preparing for this is that just about this time last year, we also had a lunar eclipse on March 14th. It was much better timed, so we were all able to enjoy it more easily without having to wake up and set our alarms as much. But it's an interesting example because the lunar precession means that this eclipse season that we're going through has moved back a couple of weeks. So now the lunar eclipse that we had yesterday, last year it was 2 weeks later, and the reason for that is that as the Earth goes through its cycles with the moon, the point in its orbit where the moon actually hits that sweet spot where it can actually be an eclipse, it moves as well. in time. So as each year goes by, the eclipse season backs up a little bit further, and it takes about 18 years for it to return to where it started. So we actually have a chance to sort of see this very slow moving cycle that happens with lunar eclipses and solar eclipses, because they're both the same thing. These nodes can tell us when it's possible to have an eclipse, because if the moon is too high above the sun or too low below the sun, there's no eclipse, it just misses. And so when it's actually lined up, it's like a 40-day window when eclipses can happen. That's the time that's happening. So that's kind of cool. Looking ahead to the next week, after the full moon that we're having, that we've just had, the moon starts to go into its waxing phases, or waning phases, I should say. The last quarter is going to be on March 11th, so that's a week tonight. And beginning around the 14th or 16th, the zodiacal light season begins. It runs about 2 weeks, and we need two things for it to work. One is you need it to be dark, so the moon has to be out of the way, and you need to have a good dark clear sky. So what it looks like is it's like a faint glow on the horizon. So if you're out of town, this is not a Toronto thing for sure, but if you're out of town and you can see a clear horizon, and you would notice like a little kind of cone of light, that's interplanetary dust that's floating around the solar system. And when it reflects just right in the early spring and fall around the equinox in the morning, you get this glow, and you can take pictures of it and see it. So it's a pretty cool thing coming up soon. March 15th to the 21st, we come to the new moon on the 19th, around 9:30 at night. And the day after that is the spring equinox this year. So we get equal day, equal nights, equinox for night. And on the same night as the equinox, the moon and Venus are going to be in conjunction in the west. And the moon and the Venus are the two brightest things in the sky after the sun. So whenever they come into conjunction like that, they make a striking pair. So you see this super bright planet beside a super cool crescent moon, and the two of them together make for a really excellent binocular view. So keep that in mind. That is the Friday night. And we have comets. Sometimes when I've done the sky this month, there are no comets. None, nada, nothing worth seeing at all. But we actually have a good selection. We have 12 comets in total that are available on this website, cobs.si. And I find this is really good because it gives you projections for what's going on locally. And most importantly, it tells you how the comet's doing. So if the comet is heading up in brightness, if it's getting brighter because it's getting closer to the sun, or if it's going down, if it's past its peak and it's starting to head out on its merry way towards the outer solar system. So right now we have a good one, which is Wierzochos, Comet 2024 E1. It's 9.4 magnitude. And for those of you who don't know the magnitude system, that's pretty good. Easy to find in binoculars magnitude. That's what that means. So it's in that zone, and it's between kind of the constellation Orion and Saturn. So it's right about here in a very faint constellation called Eridanus. But what you should be able to do is just sort of draw a line from Saturn up to Orion, and just the fuzzy part there. And if you draw a line through it and just scan the sky with binoculars, you should find a fuzzy spot. This is a good picture of it taken just a day ago. So it is showing a bit of a tail. So what you would likely see in binoculars is a bit of elongation, but you'd be able to see, hey, that is a comet. And it's one that is on its way up. It's just past its predicted peak, but it's sort of kind of as bright as it's going to be right about now. Looking in towards the last week of the month, first quarter, 3/17, we have another nice conjunction coming with the moon and Jupiter. So this is the brightest thing after the sun, plus the second brightest thing after the sun, which is the planet Jupiter, coming together in the midst of the constellation Gemini, which has two very bright stars in it. So we're going to have two very bright stars. We're going to have the planet Jupiter. We're going to have the moon all together. that's going to make a very nice little photo opportunity, or something that's just going to be really pleasant to take a look at. So that's on the 26th, which is a Thursday. All right. Another thing I like to do is to encourage people to check out an ISS transit. There's a cool website called transitfinder.com, which allows you to put in information, and it will calculate for your specific location when big satellites like the ISS and the Tiangong space station will fly in front of the sun, which takes just about a second, but you can see it. You can see that space station go whoosh right across the sun or the moon, depending on where you live, and the orbital dynamics of the space stations. The predictions are only good for 1 or 2 weeks. There's not that much time, because they will change over time as the orbits of the stations themselves change, and it gets to be very precise. But the fact that this website makes it easy for you, and you can plan to check these things out if you wish. All right. In terms of the deep sky this month, I was going to mention that it is Messier Marathon season, and I wanted to mention to members that we have a new program this winter where the Car Observatory is open for members to come and visit. Supervised weekends are on during new moon weekends in the winter, which coincides with the weekend of March 20th. So we will have, the road is being plowed, and so you would have members up there, and we would be using the facility. All of this, of course, is dependent on the weather cooperating for a change, and we're looking forward to possibly having a chance to see it up there. It can be cold at this time of year, but you can also have incredible clarity in the sky. So it is kind of worth it if we're getting a good-looking weekend. Do consider reserving a spot at the observatory and heading up there and getting a head start on your spring observing. And of course, in addition to just the fact that as the Messier Marathon season is available, and it's right about that time, and it's that one time of the year when you can actually grab all of the Messier objects, or most of the Messier objects, because the sun is sitting in a spot in the sky where there are no Messier objects by chance. And so as a result, you're able to do a lot of Messier objects in a single night. And of course, the spring galaxies, Virgo, Leo, Coma Berenices, are also all available. And apologize, I don't have more specific observing lists to suggest, but I know that everyone out there does know how to find all that stuff. So thank you very much. And I'll just pause there and see if there are any questions for the sky this month.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. Are there any questions from the audience? Okay, seeing none. Do we have any online?
The eclipse, thank you, Eric. The eclipse was good. That is our man on the street report from Eric Briggs in Buffalo. Thank you, Eric.
All right, then. So we're going to switch over to fun facts, and we'll get ready for our next speaker. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So our next speaker is Ron Macnaughton, talking about school astronomy clubs and how we can help them. Ron.
Thank you, Tom. First of all, if anybody has a question, it's great if you ask them right at the moment because it can get forgotten later on. And if somebody poses a question, could you stop me and I'll answer it, or I'll say I'll answer it later on as the talk goes. Is that okay? Okay. Anyway, this is a talk within a talk. I'm going to show a talk I gave to teachers, and I'm cutting it back a little bit. And then I'm going to talk about how centers like us can help school clubs be even more successful. So it's a talk within a talk. So I start by mentioning this picture that I took from ground level, looking up. And it was at Starfest, where we enjoyed great conversation, talks of the latest developments in astronomy, and observing under a dark sky. Just a wonderful experience. Ways youth get excited about science. I've heard there are two major ways youth get into science: dinosaurs and astronomy. Remember, this is for teachers. So how do you stimulate the interest? And you, great teaching. And I know a number of adults now that say they really didn't care at all about school until that one teacher connected with them. And the other is extracurriculars like teams or school astronomy clubs. I've done a lot of research. I've talked to people. I've scoured the internet. I've recorded ideas. You probably wonder what the yellow dots are. Those are places of people I've either talked to or emailed. I put all the information in a website and or a spreadsheet. I'm just going to explain. I wrote down the URL. In a few cases, I didn't think there was one website that answered what I want to talk to, so I wrote something called Field Trip Ideas, where a club can go. Then I wrote a 10, 12-word description. Then I ranked them as secondary, elementary, and there are a number that are middle that are in both classifications. And I went from line 6 to line 183, so there's a huge amount of information available. I also set them in categories, and with a whole bunch of playing, I finally got a way in Excel, when you click this, the clickable description, you go to whatever the website is. And given that the website isn't that useful for someone with a cell phone, what I did is I made a website called astroschoolclub.ca, and I'll hand out cards later on to anybody that doesn't have one. Originally, I had all sorts of descriptions about it. Then I decided to cut back just how to use it. And basically, you click the blue button that is either elementary or secondary. And when you do that, you get a list of categories for elementary clubs, and there's a different one for secondary. And I'm going to click now the activities button, and you get a list of a few dozen ideas. And if you click one of the ideas, it takes you to model rocketry. And this is something where instead of using one website, I listed a whole bunch and I wrote it, and I started out with warnings about safety. And my other RESC center, unfortunately, has their meetings right under the flight path for Pearson, so there's no way we can do it, but this is the Toronto Center. Anybody that's part of Toronto Center can go sometime in July and enjoy that. That was idea 1. Idea 2, click secondary. Idea categories are the same categories, but different ideas. And this time I'm going to click galaxy sorting, and I'm trying to show you the sorts of thing a club could do. Somebody in the States made a list of galaxies, and there are 20 pictures, only 9 in this. You cut them out, and you give them to different groups at tables. And you say, make a pattern to sort them. And different people come up with different patterns. And then you get them to explain, well, why did you make this pattern? And then you show them Edwin Hubble's classification from a century ago, which is pretty close to what it is now. And you talk about how galaxies are and the different shapes and everything. And that gives people a wonderful view of astronomy. Here, remember, this is for teachers. I suggest if you run a club, get help. It could be a parent that might be willing to do all this photocopying, running around, getting materials like flour that I'll talk about in a minute. But you really, if you're running a club, you want to get help and also contact the local centers. So that's what part of this talk is about. Next, project is one of the category. I should have made it plural, but I didn't. And I'm just going to talk about Galaxy Zoo. And this is an example of citizen science where even a teenager can be part of it and contribute to science. Basically, they take the latest images taken from the Hubble or Webb. They look at the galaxy and they classify it according to a system that is similar to what they came up with, but there's an official way of doing it. And I imagine they have several people looking at the same galaxies. And then if a scientist wants to say, I want to study the difference between 2 billion old galaxies and 10 billion old galaxies of a certain type, that helps the scientist. So this contributes. And also it's kind of neat if the young person does one or two and then boring, I want to play with their phone. But if somebody sticks with it, they probably have a certificate that you've done 1,000 observations, and that's great in a resume for a job. Someone has to stick to itness. Okay, next category I'm talking about is demonstrations. And when you click, you get making craters with flour. And I'm just going to reach aside for a sec. Oop. And this is going to be a demo I'll get to in a minute. And I once dropped some rocks into flour, and kids love the fact that I made a mess. But other than that, I didn't see it that useful. But a guy in, just leave it, I'll get it. A guy in Halifax came up with a better method, and you can actually show rays and big craters like Copernicus. There are lines that come out from them, and also central mountains. And the lower picture was taken by astronauts flying over the same crater. Now, this guy's ideas were mix flour and baking soda, not pure flour, and then sift rather than pour into a plastic pan. So you're sifting the flour. Then you sift darker chocolate on top. All right? Then you drop low-density nuts rather than rocks. And this gives the right balance of the strength of the flour material and the force of the impact. And you actually can get some of the features where you have rays. See the rays from some of these impacts? This, by the way, is flour with chocolate on top. And you also get some mountain features inside. So it's really rich. And the other suggestion is have tweezers to pick out the impactors. Then you don't get messy hands and messy things. And you can drop them again. Because believe it or not, when I do this, students want to keep dropping. Like, anyway, enough said. Lessons are easier for club managers to run because often it's just a PowerPoint presentation. All you have to do is fire up a projector in a room and show it, and they have the text all written on what you do. And this example is on galaxy of black holes, and the falling into a black hole, a phenomena that's kind of interesting is when you get close to a black hole, the gravity in the front of the spaceship is stronger than the other, and the spaceship and the astronauts in get stretched. Now, does anybody know the name for that process? It's really deep scientific words. Any thoughts on what the name is? Heavy duty. Yes. Beautiful. Isn't it wonderful the way astronomers come up with creative words like that? I don't know whether it's an insult to spaghetti, but that's another idea. Another category for club ideas is what I call many ideas. And there's some websites with 10 or 20 different ideas on them. And it's a little time consuming for teachers to go through because it takes a long time to go through them. But one of them is for elementary school, the Astronomy Society of the Pacific. It's like the RASC, but based in San Francisco. And there's one on shadows. There's another one where kids pretend with bags to pretend they're helmets, etc. Another where they used UV beads. And I really like hide and seek moon. You get a big picture of the moon, and on it you put some things that might be dropped, like hammers. And then kids at the far end of the room use binoculars, and they look at it, and they have a picture of the moon in front of them, and they say, there's a hammer here, and I don't know what else would be dropped. You're certainly not going to drop gloves on the moon. That's not very healthy. But I thought that's a really neat idea. There are all sorts of things in the observing category. One is there's a program called Stellarium, and it's a free app. You can just sign up for it, go on there, and it gives you a view of the sky for any date, time, place, and direction. Now, if you just look at the upper right corner, I copied this from my cell phone, and you can search by type of object, including comets. Now, Denis mentioned a really nice comet that's visible in binoculars or telescopes. I did this a while ago, so it's not on there. Oh, okay. Yeah, I did this a while ago. Thank you. You're observant. Anyway, if you click a comet, you get a view of the sky. But one of the pet peeves I have about comets is the patterns say you find it from this constellation, but most comets are visible at sunset when you can't see any stars. But what they do here is they have a feature where you can take your cell phone, and do you see here where there's an arrow? So that arrow says, oh, I've got to move a little bit to the left, and oh, there's a comet. And even if you can't see it, you know where to point your binoculars. And it's a wonderful way to be able to find comets. There's a guy in New Brunswick who made a wonderful guide for buying telescopes. And this is observing, and it's in both elementary and secondary. And I think he drew these diagrams, but I'm not sure. I saw it before. They took it down from the New Brunswick Center website. I emailed him and said, I'd like to use it for this. And he put it back up again. And they put it back up. Actually added some extra features to it. So this is a great idea in buying telescopes. Photo processing. This Trevor, I think his last name is Jones. You take fuzzy pictures that don't seem to have much detail, but when you combine them together in a certain way, you get a wonderful image like this. And there's a guy in BC who took his class to a community college. And what they did is they processed this various files on computers, and each student came with their own image that they made, printed out, and they could take it home and show their friends and family and everything, and it was just neat. Club Run is what I call activities on how to run an astronomy club. And there are all sorts of suggestions. Starting, you need to talk to your principal, 2 advisors, get a room. I've talked to a few young people that have started a club. They talked to the principal, and one guy, the principal said, you need a teacher advisor, and you need a room. You need a teacher advisor and 10 students. He came back a week later with 2 advisors and 30 students that wanted to be part of it, and it was just a going concern. How you raise money, promoting the club, linked with the local astronomy club like the RASC. Okay, all sorts of good ideas. My last section is the teacher talk is about thoughts. And there are a number of serious discussions of how important school clubs are, etc. But one guy posted to something called Cloudy Nights, which is a community of astronomers that they bounce different ideas off. And he looked for advice and didn't get much. But what was interesting is the number of people that were part of a club that said, oh, these people had wonderful careers with the Hubble, the shuttle, training simulator, special forms of photography, good business. And it came across as a wonderful experience. Now, in my talk to teachers, I'm trying to persuade them that advising an astronomy club would be a wonderful experience. By the way, this photo I took here shows the morning zodiacal light. Can you see the triangle there? Anyway, so I say it's a fun activity. If you're a teacher, it's a fun activity, and some extracurriculars are less fun. You learn about space. Everybody loves about space. It's good for a teaching career. I've read 180 resumes, skimmed through them, and I looked for something special. One guy talked about shooting off potato cannons. I called him to set up an interview time, and his wife pulled him out of the shower for the talk. Great teacher. We were blessed to have him. If you run an astronomy club, and when somebody asks, well, what was the astronomy club like? And you come with passion to say what an exciting event it was, that's the sort of person many teachers or many schools want for teachers or vice principals or whatever. Give opportunity to students. Can you imagine a 15-year-old kid going to talk to the president of, say, a Saturn dealership or a service club of adults and say, we want $1,000 to buy a telescope and make it? Wouldn't that be a wonderful experience for a 15-year-old to do, right? And you inspire, and wonderful to inspire. Okay, that's the end of my talk to teachers, and I'm hoping to give it on many other occasions. So how you, and the you now is specifically astronomy club members, can help. And I found this from how the US Army had these posters to get people to sign up for World War I. My first request is, could you take maybe half the time you spent listening to me and visit astroschoolclub.ca, and I'll hand cards out to everybody here. And that helps with the search engine ranking. And it especially helps where instead of just going in and leaving, spend a little time. Click either elementary, secondary, look at some of the activities, especially the buying telescope. It's under observing, by the way, in both lists. And just explore it a little bit. I'd love it if some astronomers would help as the Astro Club's team. I would like to see a lot of activities for university level clubs. And these are often specific projects that really are intriguing. I saw a talk by a bunch, but I couldn't find, where they launched a rocket to outer space, took a picture, you could see the curved Earth, it came back down, they recovered it. Wow, good fun. Maybe write content, contact different clubs, come up with ideas, all sorts of ways people can help. I'm a bit of a klutz with computers, and it's been quite a learning curve for me. And updating is an incredibly complicated process. I've got to sort, then resort, then save certain things, and then end up with 16 different files, like the 8 categories times secondary plus elementary, and maybe 24 plus university. And then I have to save each. Oh, I have to add photos and then save it as a PDF and upload it. That's a lot of work. Maybe there's a simpler way of doing it. Okay, also, there are issues with format. This isn't that friendly a format. I would like to do it better, but that's something to improve. How can RASC centers help? And now I'm talking to other astronomers. Maybe promote the event. Now I have to reach down and get something I dropped. I buy this from Staples, and it costs about 10 cents per thing. And it's perforated, so you print it one way like this and turn it around and print it the same direction. And you can cut it like this, rip it into different cards. All right, so it's relatively easy to make them. Maybe pamphlets. Hand them out at outreach events. Also, if a club approaches a center, maybe ask somebody who isn't on the executive, but maybe used to work with coaching students or was a teacher. They could be the coordinator, so give them advice, provide speakers or star parties if they're asked, and principals are just glowing when a bunch of astronomers come to their school and a bunch of parents come and they're just enjoying it. It's so wonderful to do. And there are other things too. RESC is a Canada-wide organization. We're just one of, is it 30 centers? we're one of the centers. And I don't know whether this eventually is going to be mounted to be part of RASC.ca. I set up my own website because they were changing the whole website on national, and I wanted to get this done. There are format issues and copyright issues. Another idea is suggested by a student is to have a starter package. And equipment could be, just see the printout of the galaxies here? And that might encourage clubs to use activities like that rather than just the relatively few PowerPoints that are ready to go. And I would love if we could find relatively inexpensive meteorites and send a meteorite to each club, just a little one. Talk about where it came from and everything. I think that would be wonderful. But again, it's an issue of money. Maybe the national organization could design and print materials. I played with the brochure. I mean, I'm not saying anything, of course, are the cards that I talked about before, and distribute them. And they could be handed out at outreach events, but also planetariums, telescope stores, and science centers might do it. But can anybody tell me why this science center wouldn't work very well? It's a David Dunlop Observatory that was closed down, and that's a really sore subject with astronomers. So my whole point is that we might get more future amateur astronomers, and that would be wonderful. So thank you very much, and I would love if anybody has some questions. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ron. Any questions from online? Nope, no comments. And any questions from here in the room? Going once?
Oh.
Whoop.
So Ron, are you using handcrafted HTML to run the website, or?
No, I understood that Rask was using WordPress. So I got a version of WordPress. I personally paid for the domain registry for the website. I wasn't going to pay $10 a month for a feature in WordPress, so I'm using the most basic program they have available. I could do a better job with paying more money, but there's only so much of my own money I want to spend on it, so I chose not to, but it's in WordPress.
Well, that's good. Thank you.
Oh, good.
Sorry, you mentioned copyright issues. What are the kinds of copyright issues you're struggling with?
Okay. I'm run a website for my local Probus Club. It's adults that get together for speakers and whatnot. And the president told me that you can't use any image without permission. And then I said, when you tell me Jim Cairns, who's the former coroner of Ontario, is speaking, which he will next Thursday night, and can I just go to a website with his picture on it and include it? And he said, no, you have to get permission. And for some reason, and I'm not very good at this, and I'm just taking a chance, it's my personal website. I've deliberately said nothing about being an RASC member, even though I'm on the Education and Outreach Committee for it, but I've made no claims to be directly connected with RASC. And I'm just taking a chance, but apparently there are some litigation where people figure we can own the copyright on this and we'll make some money by suing them. I don't know exactly what the procedures are, but it can be a massive time sink to approach the different people. I have a picture of what's called the Cat's Eye Nebula, because there's one school in Oklahoma where the school mascot was some cat, a tiger or something or other like this. So they chose that as the astronomy club name. And I thought that was kind of neat. And actually one of my things is come up with a creative name. And I found it on Astronomy Picture of the Day. And it's really fun to look at. You can set your as your wallpaper if you want to. Anyway, I emailed the guy that took the picture using a Hubble Space Telescope saying, may I use it? And he says, no problem, but I don't know if I can give you permission. So I kept it up. I don't know what I would have to go through to get a response from any big organization about that. So anyway, so I wish I could better answer your question. Yeah, good.
Lawyer,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty sure that any photograph taken by an employee of the government of the United States, whether it's NASA or whoever, it automatically is in the public domain and you can absolutely use it. Again, don't hold me to it. I don't want you to see it end up in court, but that's my understanding of public domain law in the States.
Well, I would love that, and I really want to get clarification. What I should have done is put the name of the photographer next to each photo, and I just haven't got around to doing that. But that's a great issue, and if you tell the powers that be that that's enough, because it's the sort of thing that could delay implementing this website on RASC by a year. Like there's 178 different ideas, and it's been a massive project for me, and it's been a pleasure to talk to the different people, but there's a lot there. Okay, is there a...
We have a question online.
Wonderful.
Atzel Dave wants to know, Ron, is there any security concern from schools about outreach activities?
I didn't mention anything, but some of my written stuff says if you run a club, you've got to vet every adult that comes and helps with the club. And I think that should include RESC members that volunteer to help. And I think that's really important to do. I don't know if that's the sort of thing you're doing. I know I've got a criminal record check of the highest standard. There are different grades of it for talking to school classrooms and whatnot. And it's renewable every 5 years. So I'm going to have to give my fingerprints because there's somebody else with my birthday, and go through it again. Now, I don't know if there's also things about possible injury during an outreach event. And I mean, we run outreach as well. If it's a school organized activity and approved by the principal, there would be an insurance policy, I think, by the school, if that's what you're getting at. And it's the sort of thing that maybe if a club, if a center is going to run an activity for people, they should investigate that.
Good work, Ron. Astronomy education is essential for all. Look up. That was from Louis Rifkin.
Great.
Eric Briggs mentions, check if the image you'd like to use was released under a Creative Commons license. All Wikipedia images generally are, and so that would mean you would be able to use them. And that's all from right now.
Anyway, thank you very much. I think this could be a wonderful opportunity. And talking to the people who were part of school clubs when they were teenagers makes me think that it could be really powerful for stimulating interest in astronomy in the future.
Thank you very much, Ron. So we're going to cut over to fun facts online while we get set up for our next speaker. All right, and our final speaker of the evening is Denis once again, who's going to be talking about what's new with Occult Watcher Cloud. Denis.
Thank you, Tom. All right, what's new with OW Cloud? So I've spoken about occultations on a number of occasions at these meetings. It's a bit of a passion for me, and something that unlike a lot of astronomy, it's something that goes bump in the night. So it's an interesting aspect of the hobby, and it's always cool to keep up to date with what's going on with the technology that supports this part of the hobby. I'm incredibly impressed with the folks at the International Occultation Timing Association. They put in hundreds and hundreds of hours, very, very technical stuff, and build and deploy tools that make it possible for astronomers literally all over the world to collaborate on these citizen science projects. So I'm delighted to be able to share with you some of the stuff that I've noticed lately that's been happening with this area. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the citizen science, just for those of you who may not have heard about occultations before. For me, I'll talk about the predecessor product, Occult Watcher, which I still have happily running on my laptop, and I'll show off a little bit of that. And then I'll talk about some of the features of the new OW Cloud platform, compare and contrast a little bit, and then we'll show off the upcoming event search for the Carswell Observatory just over here in case somebody's interested in doing some occultations right around here. So the first thing, just to recap it a little bit, is the notion of the citizen science here. So, 200 years ago, all astronomers were pretty well amateurs. Some of them got paid by the king, but they were basically all working with it. Now, these days, most really cutting edge astronomy is sort of professionalized. So for enthusiastic amateurs like ourselves, there's less opportunity for us to actually add a little bit to science, but occultation research is definitely one of those areas. And the purpose of this research is to accurately measure the shape and size of asteroids by timing their occultations behind a star. And when we have that accurate shape and size, that plus its orbit reveals the asteroid's density. And when we combine that with the asteroid's color and its orbital path, this connects their objects to the likely origin of that particular asteroid and how it fits in. And over the past 25, 35 years or so, we've been able to classify all kinds of asteroids into various families. And so it's not just a bunch of asteroids running around in a circle around the sun. There are distinct families, and you can see by the color coding here on this picture that we have specific asteroids, and we've been able to actually do things like say, this set of asteroids looks like they are all a chunk of the asteroid Vesta that got knocked off 300 million years ago or something like that. They're still orbiting the sun in a way that tells us that plus their color and their density tells us they were all probably part of Vesta at one time. So the way this works is it all starts with a little observation. So you go to a specific place at a specific time, and you watch in your telescope and ideally record the blinking out of a star. Can everyone see that in the audience there? The helpful arrow was painted on the sky just to make it easy to see the occultation. So what we're recording here is that specific star, which tells us an exact location on the sky. The asteroid was there, starting at a certain time and ending at a certain time. That's what we know. And then what we do is we put all that information together, the disappearance time, the reappearance time, where everyone is, and then that allows us to determine the shape and the size of the asteroid. So this is a particularly well-observed event. Each one of those little colored lines represents one astronomer with one telescope, right? So one astronomer, one telescope, they saw it disappear here, they saw it reappear here. They saw it disappear here, they saw it reappear here. You put all that information together, not only do we find that it's not one asteroid, but it's two. It's a binary asteroid, but one of them has a giant chunk knocked out of it, and it's a little bit like the Pac-Man. So this information tells us that this asteroid isn't as big as it might have looked. So when we look at it against the sky, we see how bright it is. Oh, I think it's big, but no, it's actually too things that are close together that we can only resolve with this technique. So that's what we're shooting for. So what is Occult Watcher? So Occult Watcher is the original desktop planning tool designed to help us coordinate events. You don't get an event like the Antiope observation here without planning, without letting everyone know this is what's happening. It's happening at precisely 11:49 in the evening. We need you to observe, all of you to observe with cameras and everything else like that. All of that coordination happens. And how we do that is with tools. So I'm just going to show you the old tool here. So this is Occult Watcher, the original desktop application. And what it shows you here is we've got a series of events that are timed to me. And I can see I have an event coming up at a certain time. I can see that there is a station here for me that I'm planning to. The distance is about 7 kilometers away. It's a very bright star, 7th magnitude. It's going to be 68 degrees up in the sky, and it's going to happen around 10:12 at night. Oh, it's not? I'm sorry. Thank you. Let's do that. Let's see if I can do this. I'm going to have to switch. Hold on a moment. There we go. That should be better. Unless. There it is. Okay, let's do that again. All right. So thank you, Tom. So this is an event coming up for me next week, 10:12, bright opportunity here. I can see it's in the constellation Leo Minor. It's fairly high up in the sky. It's expected to last for less than a second. So it's going to be a out and back kind of thing. But if we're lucky, we will measure asteroid 108,587 as it occults this star. So this is the old application. So you can see it's a desktop application, and we'll talk a little bit about where that fits in. So it works only with Windows. Now, one of the meetings a couple of years ago, I was excited about the mobile app. So there was a mobile app that ran on Android that gave you all of this information as well. But unfortunately, it's currently on hiatus. There's some issues with the Google Play Store, and it's basically one really dedicated developer making it work. So this is no longer available, unfortunately. So I regret, this is part of my update, is that the mobile app is no longer available. But the way that the old desktop application works, you set a location, you set filters, and then you synchronize with the main server. So it goes out and it takes about 5 minutes to find all the possible events you can look at, and you can choose different families of events to participate in. But you are coordinating with about 1,700 observers all over the world, right? So you're able to work with that together. So that's the way that this works, and the scheduling can be done, on demand. But basically, you keep it running in the background, and then there's this concept of error bars. So the prediction of the asteroid's a bit of a moving target, and where the star is also a bit of a moving target. But the star locations have been getting better and better over time because of the new surveys. So the Gaia survey, release 3 is out now, release 4 is coming, but it's given us a very, very precise location of every star, and that precision is really reducing the error bars in the position of the asteroid and where that is going to show up. So essentially, whenever you update the tool, you see a new event show up. You see events in green; those are likely to be good for you. The rank here tells you whether an observation is going to be good or not, and how far you might have to travel to get involved with that. And then this display here on the bottom, The blue area shows you where the asteroid's shadow is projected to hit the Earth. The pink is the uncertainty, and this black bar here is where you are. So in this case, I would not be able to see that most likely because I would be outside of the shadow zone. So what about OW Cloud? So that's the old way. That's the old tool. It worked and it was fine. But there's a new tool which is cloud.occultwatcher.net, which is tied into a searchable database of all the occultations worldwide over up to the next 60 days or so. And it allows you to create your own filters, and it integrates with Occult Watcher, but it takes a very different approach to things. So I'm just going to take us over to that website now. So this is OW Cloud, and I'm logged in with my personal profile. So here you can see I have my affiliation, RASC, my country, my name that would show up in the area here. I have connected myself with an API key to the overall database, and I've set my time zone, and I have a number of potential observing sites that I've used in the past, so I can use those, switch quickly from one observing site to another. So we've got Carswell Observatory here at York, Silverbridge Farm is my in-laws in Manitoba, Starfest, a popular place to do astronomy, and so forth. So all of those sites are there, part of my setup. The first key feature is sort of the event search. So if somebody comes to you and says, there's a really great event tomorrow night, you say, great, which asteroid is it? Oh, it's 124. Fantastic. Let's go check it out. And you can search and see if that event is real or not, and keep searching for it until you hopefully find it. More likely, you might find any asteroid in the past events. So here you can see quickly all of the events that have had asteroid number 124. So here we've got a whole list of all of the events that have happened and been recorded and added to the international database. So for example, here we had an event over Central Europe on October 23rd. And if we look at the details of that event, we can see that most people had misses, clouds, clouded out, and so on. But this person, Daniel, observed a 2.1 second occultation. So he got one here, and we had some other people. We didn't get enough information about this asteroid to really find out a lot about it, but it was a good attempt. It looks like it was just miserable weather that night. If we look at this one here, we've got two successful hits. So here we've got two particular people. So here and here, they both observed an occultation. They were both about the same time. So it tells us that they were pretty close to being bang on with this observation. And that makes sense because this is a low number asteroid, number 124. That means it's a relatively big asteroid, which was discovered a long time ago. And the bigger they are, the easier they are to project and map. Where we're learning most things are new asteroids that have been discovered more recently. So the event search is really cool. And one of the cool features of the event search is that I can search my own events. So I can actually go in, search past events. I don't have to tell it the idea, but I can search for this extremely successful observer here. So let's go and see how well this man's done here. All right. So over the past little while, we have signed up for events and had nothing. But we tried really hard. So this is a series of events that have been clouded out and have not happened, but at least I tried. So I can go in here and I can see that, yes, I was actually in a good place for this one, but just was unable to observe. So that is how the event search. The next area is the campaign search, which is actually a really cool part of this. So campaigns are actual scientific campaigns where they're really actually reaching out to the astronomical community and looking for help, right? So you talk about citizen science, this is the absolute best part of it, and they're saying, hey, we could use some help with this. So for example, we have here the ACROSS project looking for near-Earth asteroids. You could be helping to prevent the Earth from getting hit here. asteroids with confirmed or suspected moons. They're selected by these people here, and you can click on this link here, and it will show you any observed events for this particular campaign. And for what I should mention here too is that all of this searching is going way faster than it would have gone with the old desktop tool, because you're right online. They've got a heavy duty server behind it, big database, and they're doing big searches on it. It may take several seconds. I may have picked a poor example. I'm going to go and look at Kalachor because I know this one worked. There. So no events found in the past, but in the future, we have an event coming up for this campaign, Kalachor, which is going to occult a star. 5 stations have already signed up for it. So this request for information has meant that a bunch of people have already pre-signed up for this event, which is on the 18th of March, and most of them are going to be in Australia, because you can see here on this global chart that this shadow is going to go right across Australia, and it looks like most of these people would be in that zone, and 2 of them are expected to be in the shadow. 1 might be in the shadow, and 1 is kind of if the asteroid really goes somewhere crazy. But what's really cool about this is a dynamic feature. This is open for other people. We did find the asteroid that was used as a target for the New Horizons probe was found with this technique, where we researched and looked for information on asteroids that might be near the New Horizons probe and reused it to refine their orbit and find a trans-Neptunian object with it. So there's various campaigns here, and the campaigns also have their own websites that are part of it. So that's campaigns. Now the filters are where most people will spend a lot of time, and this is allowing you to look for your own particular personal set of things. You can have up to 3 filters. I'm planning to go up to the Carr Observatory towards the middle of the month, so I can set my filter there, and my filter for the Carr Observatory, how faint of a star am I going to be doing, what's the size of telescope I'm going to have access to, how low in the sky do I want to go before I don't worry about it, what kind of seeing am I going to have, and everything. So I can set all these various settings and control how that's going to work, and I can do that for each one of those locations. And then when I want to do a search, I can use that filter of the Carr Observatory, and I can use the date of when I expect to be there and search and see what kind of opportunities I may have. So there's 4 potential occultations happening at the Carr Observatory roughly around that time. So there's one here which is expected to be a half a second, another one 3/4 of a second, and this one, and the Carr Observatory itself is roughly around here. So I could conceivably observe there. And then another one on the 22nd, I'll probably be gone by then, but it's also looks like a very good one. So if it's clear and I'm up there, I can use this list as a way to plan my adventures with occultations there for that location. I can also do a more detailed search. So if I want to go in and I can really want to dig into the database, I can do a more detailed search, and I can override excuse me, some of my search settings if I want to, which again allows me to pick my events very clearly. Now my events is the analog to what we saw in Occult Watcher for the desktop. So if we looked at Occult Watcher for the desktop, I've got one event planned on March 10th. And if we look at it on Occult Watcher, it's the same event. The event time here says universal time, so it's actually 10 o'clock on the 10th. It's 2 o'clock in the morning on the 11th, according to universal time. 6 days away, and I can see more details about this event here. And this event is going to be here in Toronto, and I've set my observing location to be Samuel Smith Park, which is on the lake shore. And this blue line here represents where the asteroid shadow is supposed to come to. If I go north of that, I probably won't see it. But here I'm going to try and go down there and do an observation around 10 o'clock in that park. And we'll see if we can observe that and report back on there. So the green line here is the middle of the shadow. The blue line is where we expect the shadow to show up. The red line is the maximum wiggle room, if you will, for that event. And there's lots more details on this here, and I can set this up in various ways. Now, some of the new features, and so a lot of that stuff is new to us and to me. One of the other things I just read about that just happened about a month ago was multiple feeds. So in this case, we have multiple feeds for this event. So if I go back here, you can see here I've got 4 data sources for this event, right? And so each one of these data sources has different characteristics. So I can compare and contrast now with the data sources that are there. And then the other thing that they're doing is they're optimizing it. So there's literally, hundreds of events every month. If someone signs up to observe one, they will deliberately go out and refresh all the astronomy information on it so that we get a better prediction, which helps us to get a more likely hit on the event, because we don't want people to go out and have misses. Anyone can go out and have a miss, but you want to have a hit. And so this is a feature that they basically built in here. So because this event was signed up for, it's had additional predictions added to it, and that gives us more information about what we can do and when we can plan. We also have the star chart and information on the asteroid, including historically other events where this asteroid has been observed. So all of this really cool stuff. So just to kind of summarize, so OW Cloud's got more information. It's browser-based, it's faster, and it does integrate with Occult Watcher. So we haven't left Occult Watcher behind completely. If you sign up for an event in Occult Watcher, it shows up in OW Cloud and vice versa, as long as you, pardon me, as long as your account is set up properly. But it's got the history in it, which is really nice. So I can actually go and see how futile some of my efforts have been in the past, which is nice. But Occult Watcher, it works offline. You have access to it, even if you're in the middle of nowhere with no cell service or anything, you can still look up the details of your event. And it does automate the search. So it'll just go out there in the background and pleasantly go and search for events and present them to you and say, here, have a look at that. But my impression is that there is reduced focus on the development. Desktop apps are harder to build and maintain, and there's less resources in the world for those kinds of things. And it's really one, excellent volunteer, Histrof Pavlov, who maintains all of this stuff. So I don't expect him to maintain it quite as much, but he keeps issuing new versions and I keep downloading them. So let's do a last thing here. We'll do a live search and see what's coming up at the Carswell Observatory in the next next 7 days. What have we got? So we're going to do a filter search. We're going to switch to Carswell and we're going to search 7 days out from today. And no events found. Dear me, that's disappointing. Let's search from next Wednesday. There we got one. So running right over York University, we have asteroid 152127, which is 10th magnitude, half a second, 48 degrees west. Not a bad opportunity. So hopefully we can see if somebody's interested in taking that up and working with the telescopes that are here to observe that occultation. All right, and that's it for now. Certainly there's occultations. There's a website for all of this, occultations.org, and encourage you to check that out. And there are forums in the groups.io platform for IOTA and Occult Watcher that you can also participate in and learn a lot more about it. And that's it for tonight. If there's any questions, happy to address.
Thank you very much, Denis. So, question already?
You bring back memories. I remember once my first occultation, I was looking at it and I didn't get the timing right, so it wasn't valuable. But it's just awesome to be looking at this star and suddenly it blinks out and then it blinks in again.
Mhm.
And I was just going, oh, wow. And then it blinked again.
Ah,
Now, I don't know whether I should have reported my timings were off. I don't know if I should have reported the second blink because that might have been, well, anyway.
it could have been a double asteroid, and if your report would have been put in as a suspect, but if it was observed again, it would be confirmed, and it would mean that somebody who was looking for that opportunity, they might flag that as a potential binary asteroid. So, and that would encourage more people to look at it. So if that does happen to you again, I would encourage you to report it, even if your timing is imprecise.
And I have to disagree with you. My experience says almost all asteroid occultations occur at 3 a.m. in god awful weather rather than in a convenient 10 o'clock time like the one you're pretending is going to happen in a few weeks.
I see. Thank you. Thank you for that encouragement. I appreciate it so much.
Actually, as someone who's done occultations, I will disagree with you, Ron, because if it's lousy weather at 3 a.m., you can stay in bed. Any other questions from the audience? All right. Nope, nothing online. All right, then. So, Denis, thank you very much. And we'll go to fun facts while we set up for the announcements at the end of the show. All right, and now joining us remotely, the El Presidente, Scott Masterton, with the announcements.
Well, thank you, Tom. And thank you to everyone who is there and tuning in to listen to our presentation. I want to let you know that the RAN Recreational Astronomy Night occurs once a month, and in person and online at the university. And Speakers Night occurs a couple of weeks after that, but online only. So you can ask questions using the chat function, and you can let us know if you're a new observer. The Carswell Observatory is open in the wintertime. Their 1 meter telescope is open for observation and to inspect before the RAN at the university. Speakers Night, upcoming events. March 18th, a couple of weeks from now, we have an online presenter, Megan Russell, Research Associate at the Planetary Science Institute. Title of her talk is Venus from Earth's Twin to a World Apart. And you'll be able to observe this in a couple of weeks. The DDO March break. Yes, March break, there are a number of functions, and we'll go through them right now. Saturday, March 14th at the DDO at 10 a.m. You can explore the space through comets and craters at 10 a.m. to noon. Children 5 to 12 years old, you register online at the active RH link. Also, a March break function is March 18th, noon to 12, out of this world. And you can register for that and obtain cost information at Active RH. The March break Sun Fun event will occur March 21st, noon to 2 p.m. at the DDO. And it's an in-person function or activity for children 6 to 14 years old. It's mixed. Millennium Square, March 27 or 8, depending on the weather. Go to the site to find out if it's called or not. A registration is not required, and it is free for everyone to attend. The DDO Astronomy Family Night, also a function at DDO. Everyone can attend. Fees are at the Active RH site. Sunday stargazing, gazing. Family-friendly sessions to safely observe the sun. And again, at the David Dunlop Observatory, ages 6 and up. Runs rain or shine. If there's no observing, you'll get to inspect the 74-inch telescope. And the next Recreational Astronomy Night is April 1st, excuse me. And this will be similar to tonight. You'll hear about the sky this month and get other interesting speakers. It's free, and it is in person and online at York University. Also, we'd like to remind you that the Carr Astronomical Observatory is open for our members' use. It's now available year-round because we're plowing the road for access. You can go to the CAO bookings page for details. And we would like to remind you that you can sign up for RASC membership at the indicated site, and you can give gift memberships as well at the National Office website. We run on volunteer energy, so when you're a member, you can help us out to do presentations and assist in other ways. Contact the volunteer coordination team. The meeting after the RAN, we go across the street to talk about the night's events and enjoy some refreshments there. I want to thank you for joining us and have a good night.